I've been debating on whether or not I should post anything here, but I figured I might as well. I'm a really big fan of this page, so I thought maybe I could contribute somehow. So, here goes. Okay, so this happened when I was probably 4 or 5 years old. We live in a tiny town in North Carolina. Combined with the city and entire county, we have roughly 5,000 person population. Now, when I used to live with my parents before I married, we lived 10 minutes from town. Our neighbors are family, and they live about an acre away in each direction. We know everyone, and everyone knows us. When I was young, I had a particular fear of leaving my curtains up at night. I had to have my windows covered before I could sleep. I was too young to verbalize it at the time, but the concept of waking up with someone looking through my windows terrified me. After this incident, this particular fear of mine has amplified. Anyways, to get on to the actual story, we lived pretty much by ourselves. If anyone comes onto our property, we know who they are. So when my father and older brother started finding boot prints that didn't belong to them, we got a little nervous. Living out as far as we did meant that police, fire department, or EMS would take much longer in a bad situation. My father had taught my older brother, sister, and me how to handle guns, even from an early age. At 6, I was fairly proficient with my Daisy BB gun. So, over the course of several days, they started to notice more boot tracks. Stuff was being moved around in the barn. The building door was open one morning, though we couldn't tell if anything was missing or not. It was apparent that someone was snooping around at night. Since I was young, my parents didn't want to frighten me, but my brother did. He told me that someone was creeping around the yard at night, and one day I would wake up and that he'd be in the house. To put it lightly, my brother was an asshole. My brother always made fun of the fact that I would not sleep with my windows uncovered. He told me I needed to face my fears, and eventually, during this time that someone was definitely sneaking around, he convinced me to sleep with my curtains drawn back. I craved his approval more than anything else, so I agreed to do so. He said this was the best time to do it, and I believed him. So, that night, I left my curtains drawn back. It took a long time for me to get to sleep, but eventually it did come. I was always a very light sleeper, and even the slightest gust of wind would wake me. I would always wake up 4 or 5 times a night. That night, I heard the porch just outside my window creak. I tried to ignore it, thinking that it had been my imagination. Then, a shadow passed over the light, coming from the lamp outside. I opened my eyes and sat up. A man was standing in the window, hands cupped up to the glass. In the process of running out of my room, I did piss myself. I ran straight for my parents' bedroom. At the same time, the doorknob on the front door started jiggling hard. He was trying to get in. I managed to get into the bedroom and tell my parents what had happened. My dad grabbed a gun and a flashlight and headed outside, throwing the door open. Mom locked it behind him before waking up my brother. After nearly half an hour, my father came back in. His face was sweaty and pale. He sent my brother and I to bed, but we both sat up and listened. My father had found a tarp and blankets, set up about a half-mile into the woods, just off the logging trail that had been dug in some 20 years previously. Guy had been there for a while. Dad apparently tore the place apart. He'd had sight of the guy, but lost him in the end. The police came and took statements from my parents and had a look in the woods, but didn't find anything. They figured he wouldn't be back anytime soon. We never saw him again, and I always sleep with my windows covered. So, creepy-ass man spying on a 4-year-old? Let's not meet.